Dan and Corey here, welcoming you in to Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
Yeah, welcome in to another rousing rendition of Libservative, intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy. We're Bell the Bodysnatcher on the ones and twos. He, as always, is Corey Walsh.
And he's Dan Griffin.
That was so enthusiastic. Much like
all I did was
JD
add a
Vance
smile.
last night.
Like we learned this in specs. Just add a smile when you're talking, and it just makes you sound so much more excited versus not having a smile.
Thank God this isn't radio. We would make the worst radio team ever because, first of all, you have to stick to breaks in radio, and we go off on so many tangents. There's no fucking way. There's no way. Our advertisers would kill us.
We would just have to cut it off.
Except to cut Corey's mic. Corey, it's time for a break.
You're gonna JD Vance me? Just give me 1 minute.
That was fantastic.
What's really funny in that is when they said that, like, the audience can't hear you, and it's like, no, we definitely can.
Yeah, because I think Walz's mic was still open, and so was probably the moderator's mics. And did you like the nice comeback that a lot of the phony feminists out there today were talking about how JD Vance was interrupting two female moderators and mansplaining to them?
Walz, but it's really funny because what's that text I sent you guys yesterday? What's the headline going to be tomorrow? 2 old white men yell at women.
Yeah.
I called that.
Well,
shit.
no, he was JD Vance was correcting them, and rightfully so. He should have corrected them in that situation. So yeah, that's going to be our big topic of the night. Some other stuff we have to discuss tonight. The fact that Elon Musk and Twitter are suspending the accounts of journalists for political reasons. There have been many different explanations for why this is okay. This is something that we warned everybody about from the time that Elon took over Twitter and brought out the Twitter files, which Corey supported, I supported, Bell supported. We were all for this. We
were excited because we felt a little vindicated.
Getting the censorship out there, but did we not warn the people, Corey? Did we not say conservatives, while they are doing the right thing by bringing out and letting the American people know about censorship that was coerced by the federal government in a Democratic administration, or honestly, because Trump was president for some of this, and there was still a censorship. Yes, this was a good thing that conservatives did this, but it's not because they care about free speech. It's because they want their own form of censorship.
Honestly, yeah, it's like I sometimes think it's like, at what point do we just start pulling our own sound bites from our shows of years past? Because I almost think, like, this sounds so familiar to me that I almost think that's exactly what we were saying, that, like, this is good, this is happening, but we're not holding our breath.
That anything really that great is going to come out of it. Also,
because I think we said we need to find out whether or not Elon Musk is going to end up doing the same shit, but just for the other side. I feel like that is almost verbatim the conversation we had. Does it sound familiar?
And sure enough, here we are in 2024 with the suspension of Ken Klippenstein's Twitter account. We also have a nice port workers union strike going from the very tippy top of Maine all the way down to East Texas. So yeah, that's going to make shit more expensive, just so everybody's aware, in probably relatively short order.
Yeah, and someone who's pro-union's got a lot to say about that.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. Corey's more pro-union than me. I think unions are maybe. And what's funny is we don't even disagree that much, but it's probably one of our biggest disagreements. Is how important or good union or bad unions actually are.
That and how
Yeah.
some public welfare programs done on a very decentralized in a very decentralized way could be a good thing.
And I think those are most of
That's
our
all. I
topics.
just thought of it. I don't know. I just thought of it when you mentioned us having disagreements. Sounds like there's more than one. Go ahead. Actually, you know what? I got something for you, Dan.
You do? I don't
Absurdist
want it.
Podcast is found on all social media podcast platforms. Our website is libsurdiveshow.com. We can be found at Libsurdив on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter at LibsurdivPod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libsurdiv Podcast. And you can reach out directly at libsurdivpod@gmail.com. Subscribe today.
Boy, I hope he's qualified.
Don't get bogged down by all the haters out there.
You always give this fucking stupid ass pause after I say it. Like I said something wrong, but it's a goddamn script that I read the same every single fucking week. Stay out of this, Kamala. You do every single time. But you know what I think it is, actually, as I'm unpacking this in my mind, is usually afterwards, sometimes I'll say, and just tell a friend if you want to listen to the show, because that's the best way to spread the name of a podcast. Go ahead, and this is for real for all you listeners. Go ahead and tell a friend about a show you listen to, because then you can, if you don't like it, you can be like, listen to this, and you guys can bitch about it. Or you could agree with something to disagree and just have someone to talk to about.
These idiots.
What my pitch is?
Oh man, Joe Scarborough is an absolute.
Dude, my soft pitch on here is worse than my NCAA 25 soft pitch.
We forgot something.
We're all behind our baseball team. Go get 'em, Tiger. World Series bound and picking up steam. Go get 'em, Tiger.
That whole second verse
That's right.
actually has meaning for the first time in a long time.
Our Detroit baseball Tigers are on their way to the ALDS as of today. But you know what
I didn't
found
even
out?
know until they were like basically in the playoffs.
I know this isn't a sports show, but like I think even if you're not a sports person, you will appreciate this crooked ass statistic. So the Tigers went down 2-1 because they put in a rookie who had pitched like literally one inning and gave up a couple of runs. So in the 8th inning, Tigers come in down 2-1, and they go up against a pitcher, and I'm already blanking on his name, but he was paid.
Krubel? What's that guy's name?
No, the Astros pitcher. He was paid roughly almost $20 million this year. Corey, that $20 million that this pitcher made was more than the entire Tigers postseason roster combined.
And they shut him up.
The Tigers postseason roster and their roster in general, especially without Javi Baez on it, is historically low. Like their team salary.
You might know more about the inside baseball, so to speak, of this scenario. But someone at work mentioned that there was a video breaking down at like the statistics that the Lions are looking at right now, and using pitchers.
Tigers, you mean?
The Tigers, yeah. Well, the Tigers are using pitchers based on I did say Lions, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Based on the statistics of how the other team hits or something like that. Obviously statistics already looked at, but the way they're using statistics is one of the reasons that they're just dominating right now.
So they're using their pitchers very unconventionally, because generally every team has 5 starting pitchers and you start one every 5, and they start every 5 days. The Tigers right now basically have one. They have one starting pitcher. So it's just every game's a bullpen game, it's very unconventional, but it's 100% working, and I am here for it. Because they're going to
did they sit there and just save their pitchers and ice their pitchers all fucking season to all right, now we can just fucking run them as hard as we want?
No, dude, there's no explanation for this, because a lot of these guys in the minor leagues were terrible. They're good, and then all of a sudden they come up to the majors and they can pitch, and nobody understands why. We're not trying to. Don't try and make sense of it. There's no way to make sense of it. We're just enjoying it. That's all it is. They're taking on the mistake by the lake in the ALCS, in the Cleveland do I call them Indians? Yeah, the Cleveland Indians.
Cool. And then
also known
I'll
as
add
Star
one more
Eagles.
thing, and then we can get back to politics because this isn't a sports podcast. You told me not to.
God damn it!
The lion's teeth that will not yield, and when the
I'm not gonna let the whole thing play, but I just wanted to do it just because you told me not to. I warned you pre-show that I was going to too.
Yeah, Corey always uses the reverse psychology. I need to tell him to do things so that he doesn't do them. That's how that.
Yeah, then I'm probably like, I don't know, that sounds corny. But dude,
so
I don't know. The fucking Lions did a good job on Monday.
Nice win.
They beat Seattle
Nice
for like
win.
the first time in like 5 years. That Jared
Nice
Goff,
win.
fucking, I don't know. I'm just in the pros. I have never really seen plays like that. Like I've seen him in college. You see a lot of those more wacky plays. I feel like in college than the pros. Or maybe I just
Terrion
don't
Arnold
watch
needs
enough
to.
pro.
Terrion Arnold needs to go the entire week of practice with his hands tied behind his back after all those pass interference penalties that he's gotten this season. But I digress.
Oh my God, and Davis. This
he
isn't a
wasn't
sports
that great
podcast. This isn't a sports podcast.
So what I learned this week, Corey, we want to get into things learned.
Yeah, let's get.
So I'm driving through the neighborhood, right? It's late September at that point, and now obviously we're into early October, and there's all of a sudden, the Halloween decorations start popping up around the neighborhood, as you might expect. You know what I realized? There is absolutely and utterly no, and maybe this is just our area, no creativity to Halloween decorations anymore. All it is the blow up things and like those giant like statues that cost like $300 that people put in their yard. That's it. That's all the Halloween decorations are anymore. There's no creativity. Like I used to have a guy on the block that him and his son would like deck out the whole yard with the fucking fog and the lights and like handmade coffins and shit. And he would get in his like bloody Jason mask and hide in the coffin and scare the kids as they came up to his fucking yard. Like, that's the way Halloween is supposed to be done. Now it's so cookie cutter. It's just everybody's got like 3 of those giant fucking statues that you just throw up every year, or the blow up things. And I was just noticing it for the first time this year where I was like, this is really goddamn lame.
So my neighborhood isn't like that. My neighborhood, people are still pretty much making their own shit. Like this one guy, he built a whole.
Well, that's because you live where people are poor.
Yeah, we have to be creative. Like, I got some hot dogs and some macaroni and cheese. What am I gonna make for dinner? Chop them up, throw it in there. Like,
are you gonna be the Kenny McCormick of? Are you gonna be the Kenny McCormick of this show?
Who's Kenny McCormick?
The Kenny from South Park. You just constantly make fun of you for being white and poor.
I'm better now. I got better. I overcame my disease.
I'm not that poor, dude.
It's just bullshit.
I'm not rich by any means, but like when I see like the median wage for a household is $59,000, I'm like, okay, I'm right above average.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
It's like I would find a way to brag if my IQ was like 1 past the average. I'd be like, dude, fuck yeah, like I'm smarter than the average person.
I'm above average, motherfucker.
Yeah, I'd start treating people like plebs. Like, will you get that door for me instead of open the door for people?
Corey starts walking around with a monocle and a top hat.
Well, I already got the top hat, but
my '67 Corvette.
All right, now they make Google glasses. They should make Google monocles. I would rock one of those.
I bet you would.
Yeah.
It wouldn't match your beard. Beards are for peasants. Oh my God! Speaking of beards,
JD Vance has a beard.
Dude, you read my mind. Did you see I wish I could remember who tweeted this out, but there was like one of these feminist types that was talking about how JD Vance's beard matters because it promotes masculinity and turns women voters off because he has a beard, and nobody like vying for the White House or the VP has had a beard since like 1920. And it's just like, honestly, other than to make fun of it, because there are reasons to make fun of it, like he's hiding the fact that he has a fat chin. Like, how much have you really noticed JD Vance's beard in any like reasonable way.
As a bearded man, I don't see beard.
Is that like the same as like I don't see color?
You said it.
They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not stand for it.
Bright Eyes is here.
What did you learn this week, Corey? What's up, Bright Eyes?
It's nothing like. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a fun fact. It's nothing like.
I know
super
Bell's got a
profound or
good one. That's
anything.
why we're leaving him for last.
But I learned that as of 2023, the world has more than 190 gigawatt hours of battery energy storage. That there's just a ton of energy just stored in places. It's a weird thing to like for me. It was like I get it. Like I know there's science behind it. You know, like there's a constant exchange of chemicals inside that's just creating energy that can be converted into electricity. I'm not stupid.
Let's
I think
just
my
get a hold of
IQ is
Anthony
like.
Fauci to. Let's just
I
get a
think
hold of
my IQ is at least
Fauci
one
to-
over average.
Let's get a hold of Fauci to tell us about it because he.
But I
is
just thought
science.
that it was fascinating that all over the world there's just a bunch of blocks that are just storing energy. That like, if it's like that many gigawatts, like they could like, there's enough energy that could like power like a small neighborhood for like a month, just sitting in boxes and cubes all over the world. And I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just found that kind of interesting.
What are they doing with all of this energy, Corey? It sounds like a deep state plot to me.
No,
They're storing it.
I'm
for
all
when the
for it.
world
Like,
ends. And
as a
they can-
libertarian,
and they
you
can
should be all
pipe-
for it because it's being decentralized as possible.
That's fair. Is it though? We don't know. I mean, because I don't know anything about this. But I just want to give you the deep
I got
state plot version of
57
this.
car batteries underneath my trailer, Dan.
That'll
I'm
last
just
you like 14 hours. But they're storing it so that it can like be used in Mark Zuckerberg's bunker.
I
Duh.
don't know. He's maybe because he's getting pretty libertarian.
It's a deep plot.
Have you seen that
Telling
shit?
you.
He's like taking
Yeah,
this little
no,
of a
Zuck-
libertarian bent. And have you noticed that in the
he-
algorithms on Facebook, they've gotten a
Corey.
lot more like pretty wild? Has anyone else noticed that?
Corey, Atlas Shrugged is coming true. You have all of the billionaires getting sick of this shit and becoming more libertarian. They probably just reread Ayn Rand a couple times. They probably just reread Shrugged in the Fountainhead a couple of times. And that's when they decided. But it's coming true, man. All the billionaires are going to disappear. And we're all going to be fucked. Who the hell is our Dagny Taggart going to be? I don't know.
That's something I was
Stephanie
thinking about the
McMahon?
other day too. That it seems like a lot of people who are like agnostic seem to like heavily rely on the idea that there needs to be a strong government. Like so like they're replacing a deity with just a father figure type thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the idea that
Like you know, just based on the demographics, like if you look like all their like if you're like going to church every Sunday and you're praying to God and doing a religion, you're probably a conservative. You're probably a Republican. And if you believe in like a government that's supposed to take care of the people, like some sort of higher up, you know, taking care of everyone instead of everyone taking care of themselves, they're probably a Democrat. And I just find it
Corey,
interesting that like
you basically just really clunkily described how communism comes to exist. You trust the state as if it's a deity. And that's how you get communism. More or less.
yeah, I think you missed a couple steps, but
No, yeah, there's more in there, but we're on our way. We'll bring Bell in here. Bell's got a fun things learned this week.
Oh, you know
I
what I
already
learned
forgot
this
it.
week?
So I get to learn it all over again.
It's something to do with Kyle Rittenhouse.
I learned that you can go and shoot people and still be a fucking bitch. So
What did Kyle Rittenhouse do that was so bitchy?
Kyle Rittenhouse went on his Twitter, right, and was all like, I don't know if I can in good conscience vote for Donald Trump this election because I don't think he
Ooh.
secures enough of our Second Amendment rights. After 24 hours of getting blasted in the ass by MAGA and Trump supporters,
We have to stay
Kyle
woke.
Rittenhouse then tweeted that Donald Trump has his full support and that he wasn't thinking clearly and he had some new information brought to the table to him by the Trump team, and now he fully supports Donald Trump. What a bitch. He came out, he was all talking about he was going to vote, he was going to write in Ron Paul. Like, he was talking shit.
Yeah, he had it right the first
Oh yeah,
time.
no, I remember all this. I probably have it written in notes somewhere. Yeah, he definitely bent over on that one. That's what you also you just saw all this. You're like, oh man, what a little asshole.
I know, that's what I seen. I was like, what a little bitch. Little bitch.
Still something we need to talk about because it's he had it right the first time. He had it right the first time because Donald Trump doesn't actually care about Second Amendment rights.
No, he doesn't. Not at all.
No, he's on tape saying that take all their
He
guns
supports
away.
red flag laws.
Get due process.
And supports
He signed
red
more
flag
gun
laws.
control than Obama.
Yeah.
No, it's just there's clear video of him saying forget due process. He was sitting there with his arms crossed. Because I remember seeing it. Because I remember thinking,
take the guns.
yeah. Because I remember thinking, holy shit, I can't wait to show this to my MAGA supporter friends who think he's pro-gun.
Yeah.
And like all of them
Did you?
immediately.
What was the
were like,
reaction to that?
well, he didn't mean that.
Well, no, and that honestly that speaks to the point of what everybody says about Donald Trump.
But
His
he has
supporters-
done the most anti-gun shit since like
his
Clinton.
supporters say take
He
what
took
is it?
away
The
bump
supporters-
stocks, but the Supreme Court just overturned them. But yeah, they took away bump stocks.
Well, and here's the thing about that, which I always find funny, is that like it's fucked up to take away bump stocks because it is a small infringement on your Second Amendment rights, but also bump stocks are fucking dumb.
Yeah,
Yeah. You could do it with a belt.
they're just stupid. It's just a stupid tool to get around the fact that you're not allowed
what
to
it
have a fully
essentially
automatic
is
weapon.
it's a novelty item.
Yeah,
You're not using it for anything really, unless you're going out to shoot with the boys in an open field where you can get away with shooting something that sounds pretty rapid fire without anyone fucking with you.
Wait,
let's just say you don't have your bump stock engaged when an intruder enters your home.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
There's no way.
And if it's a slide stock, it wouldn't even be expanded. So
You're right. Kyle Rittenhouse is a bitch. He almost had it right. Actually, no, he did have it right, and then he got it wrong.
I wouldn't be using I wouldn't reach my AR if someone was coming in my home. It'd just probably be my pistol because trying to maneuver a fucking barrel in a narrow ass hallway is you can't really move too much as you could with a pistol.
I always thought it would be fun, and this sounds a little masochistic, but let's just say somebody actually is entering my home and trying to hurt myself or my family. I've always thought it would just be fun to just blast a little bit of bird shot in their face.
Man, do you know what pepper shot is?
I don't have to worry about that though, because every single night before I go to bed, I lay out a bunch of micro machines by the back door, and there's a trip wire with some paint cans on a rope.
For Harry and Marv.
Those little bastards.
We have to stay woke.
Just in case. And then I have to wake up extra early to disarm all of them, because if I try to rush out the house, I'm fucked.
What's pepper shot? Is it like bird shot with like cayenne pepper in it or something?
Dude, it's just smaller bird shot.
Okay.
You can put it you can get it for a 22 pistol.
Nice. I don't own any pew pews like that, but yeah.
Oh, it's just you can get it for a 9. It's just they're extremely small BBs. They're non-lethal.
Yeah.
So now that the government is listening,
I feel like birdshot is the way to go, right? Well,
I want to
here's the
remind
thing, right?
everyone that I lost all of my guns in a tragic boating accident.
That's right. Yeah.
Every single one. All of them. They're all gone.
Better hope nobody finds those.
They're all gone. Corey yells.
I just learned that my late grandfather, so you don't have to, the government doesn't have to come after me for this one. I just learned that my late grandfather, had a boil on his back that I recently found out from another family member was not a fucking boil. That was a fucking bullet wound. And he had at least one firearm with the fucking serial number scratched off. So I don't know what grandpa was into.
He was just into becoming ungovernable.
He was just
I
a
like
humble
it.
Stroh's delivery man.
Grandpa sounds
You
fun.
think?
Yeah.
Did he have a nice house?
No, not at all. It was built
Oh,
on
and then
a
I also had
slab.
a PSA. I also had a PSA that in the world of Taylor Swift's Be a Chapel Roan. I don't know if you know who Chapel Roan is.
No, I know the name. Am I supposed to know? Am I missing
No,
something?
but
Am I
she's
too
just
boomery?
well, right now she's like she's the vibe. She's it. You know, she's very popular for right now. She's got a couple bangers out like Pink Pony Club, Hot to Go. And Taylor Swift came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. She came out and she said that she's not endorsing anybody. She said that she's still going to vote for Kamala Harris, but she's super huge into the LGBTQ community. And she didn't go when the White House invited her, like, to come to the LGBTQ thing, even though she's one of the biggest, like, outspoken people about it. And she goes, no, I'm not going to be like, what'd she call it? She's like, I'm not going to be like a show horse or something for your shit. She goes, you guys aren't doing anything. You guys aren't as good as the Republicans or anybody in the Republicans. And was talking about the genocide shit. And like, she fucking gets like way more liberal than you or I, but she fucking gets it that it's a grift. And she gets it that they're two wings of the same bird. I'm not trying to put
Nobody's
words in
ever
her
been
mouth
hit
on
like
the
that.
last then. But when I saw that, I was like, fuck yeah, girl. Like, you know what? Like, we would probably sit there and argue about policy all day long,
Dude,
but like, you at
she
least
better be
fucking get it.
she better be careful because Swifties will come and burn her fucking
Oh,
house
they did.
down.
They did. Like, well, no, like they did
They
it,
didn't. They burned her house down.
but people, some people were coming after her, but then even more people were defending her. And like, and then I saw this one TikTok, and it was this gay guy, and he goes, the people coming after her for not supporting Kamala Harris are the ones who buy their rainbow socks at Target. Like,
That's fair. That's good. I like that.
We have to stay woke.
yeah, plus she's got good songs.
All right, Corey, you want to get into this debate?
Yeah, let's get into it.
What were your immediate takeaways? And I always steal the thunder and go first. I'm gonna let you go first. Like what were your main, if you had like main takeaways from the JD Vance Tim Walz debate?
It was a breath of fresh air, honestly. You know, it had more substance. I feel like he's still like, now there's what you and I want from a debate, and then there's what like
Normies.
The bar, where the bar is set.
I'm gonna pour a drink. I'm listening.
We're like a bar, yeah, but like where the bar is set. Sorry, I drank a little bit too fast with that beer and I burped. But yeah, so like, but where that bar is for like people who like, there's people like us who pay way too much attention to the shit, and then there's people who just watch like CNN and Fox News and watch these debates and stuff like that, but don't get into the reads of it. And for those people, this even was, I feel like, was a breath of fresh air compared to the debates we've had for the past 8 fucking years. And they talked about their policies. Now, like I said, we didn't get the answers. Like, okay, but how? But you're never going to get that out of these style of debates. Not, you know, like what you and I would want. But they were cordial. They acted with civility. They, yeah, like, and they didn't do, neither of them even went in any crazy outlandish lies. Like, JD Vance at one point did kind of like lift up the, like, almost open Pandora's box by talking about sex trafficking, which we know what happens, but like touching on that immediately paints you as just like a Pizzagate type person, because all the fucking crazy people diluted like the conversation like around sex trafficking, that it's like toxic waters to even discuss it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
there
that's
were definitely some lies. Like
Right.
the big one is this lie, and I think this is one of JD Vance's bigger mistakes in this debate. Which, by the way,
But what I was gonna say real quick was there
ahead.
wasn't anything too fucking wild to where it was immediately like, well, that's an absolute insane fucking lie. That like was outlandish as the pets and the dogs, the cats.
I mean, other than probably the biggest one is this whole lie that's constantly told, and it's not unique to JD Vance. It's just always a conservative lie about
9
immigrants
months term
taking
abortions. Oh, okay.
no, well, not that, and immigrants taking American jobs. That's absolute bullshit. None of the data bears that out. Immigrants don't take American jobs, at least not at any sort of mass scale that you can actually throw into actual data that you like. Could you come up with some sort of a platitude or an anecdote that shows, oh, there was this factory in Des Moines where 7 workers got fired to hire 14 migrants at a quarter of the cost? Yeah, of course, there's going to be anecdotes like that. But
Right.
as far as data goes,
even if it were true, like again, there's a simple solution. It's instead of using it as a platitude just to garner votes.
Yeah. I think
enforce the laws that hiring illegal people has fines and repercussions to the point to where the risk outweighs the reward. That's it. It's a risk reward decision that these business owners are making, and if you make the risk way higher than the reward, then you're not gonna fucking do it. If it's a piddly little fine of like, oh, you got busted $1,000, and it's like, dude, that's fine. I saved myself $35K this year by hiring this guy. Then I got to pay $1,000 for that, and then they deport him, and then I just bring another one in. That's fine. That's cost of doing business. I don't know. That's arbitrary, obviously. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm making that up. But if you make it to where it's like you lose your business license, you keep doing this, it's gonna be like, I'm not gonna get busted doing this anymore.
I had 2 major takeaways from this debate. Like when after it was all said and done and the dust had settled, because I was fucking exhausted by the end of it. I'm sitting there trying to take notes, trying to tally points, which, by the way, JD Vance did win this debate by my tally, if we're giving it a point-based structure, and he actually won it pretty handily.
Point-based structure based on the point base you created.
Yeah, that I created. No, all I did was this. You want to know what my structure was? It's actually really simple. Every topic that they covered said which person won it. That's it.
Yeah. Who gave a better definitive answer? Who didn't stumble over their words? Who was more factually correct?
It was kind of subjective criteria, but
right. But even if like,
but the thing that surprised the biggest surprise was this: was that JD Vance realized who he was talking to in this debate, because I fully expected JD Vance to come out and kind of do the Trump thing and talk to his base, which is the biggest mistake Trump makes in every single debate that he does. JD Vance did a wonderful job of instead of talking to like the hyper online conservatives, he talked to the Fox News conservatives. He talked to, to the Sean Hannity and the Sean Hannity and the Laura Ingraham conservatives.
He talked to the moderates.
I was
he
surprised
defended the ACA.
Well, yeah. He did a few things, but I was surprised.
You know what I mean? Well, like he was reaching out to like the undecided voters. Like, no, he did a crack fucking job of doing that. Of
he talked
reining in the radicalness of what MAGA is branded as, viewed as, and represents.
And I saw the best meme maybe of this election cycle so far, which is a picture of Tim Walz next to Kevin from The Office spilling the chili.
He's just a knucklehead.
That is exactly what Tim Walz was last night. Tim Walz was Kevin from The Office.
He's just a knucklehead.
That because for all of the ways and all of the reasons that we've discussed since Donald Trump chose JD Vance as his running mate, for all of the ways that we have said, or at least I have, I don't know so much about you, Corey, but I know I have said that JD Vance has shown over and over again that he is not ready for this moment.
He showed it last night.
I'm not going to say that he completely reversed all of that last night, but what he did do was he did enough, because you have a
Yeah.
lot of the
Well,
conservative
take away
pundits
all the
coming out.
take away all the shit that he fucked up on, like all like the botched interviews and the stuff that he was doing in the beginning, the Bush League shit. And this is how most people, like, other than soundbites, like, probably actually saw him. This is, like, this is the first time they're really being introduced to him, and he came off as a very,
We've always
very
said-
polished individual.
I've always said, even when I was talking about how I didn't think he was ready for this moment, I've always said I think JD Vance is a smart guy. Like, I don't think he's an idiot.
Right.
After seeing Tim Walz last night, I mean, high school teacher and football coach, believe me, because he'll tell you, and his supporters will tell you what he is.
But that resonates. That
He was,
resonates. He came across as just a normal
a humble
guy.
knucklehead.
Just a humble, just a humble old knucklehead. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm not an elitist. I'm not this super smart person. And that's what the Democrats are trying to, like. It's like strategically. That's what. Remember me saying before, like, we didn't know I didn't really know who the governor of Missouri was. I didn't fucking
Minnesota.
know. Or Minnesota. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Minnesota. And then all of a sudden he pops up out of nowhere, and he's just this younger
shucks.
Bernie Sanders, all shucks guy from the Midwest, which is where all of the fucking swing states are. Like, I was just like, where the fuck did this guy come from? And that's how he basically represented himself, and that's who the Democratic base is lacking with right now, because they've gone super elitist since Clinton. And now they're trying to regain the blue collar Democrat base there, where it's like, yeah, you're a blue collar worker, and you know what? And by golly, you just care about your neighbor.
Who would you say then would have won more undecideds last night? Not that vice presidents are who we're necessarily voting for, but let's just say these two guys are running for president.
Right. Which, God damn it, after that debate, I wish it was them and not Trump and Harris.
Well, who would you say would have won over more undecideds last night? Because I think it's unequivocally JD Vance.
That's tough to say, dude. That's tough to say, because remember,
Is it
like if it was them two for president, they both came across as just not extreme, just run of the mill. We agree on a lot of stuff. Our policies are a little bit different. They both agreed. I think you're looking at this through the lens of Kamala Harris and Trump still in the picture.
No, I don't. Well, I'll tell you why I think it was,
because
JD
the
Vance.
undecided voter, with them being like what I'm saying is, if an undecided voter is undecided because they're more Democrat, but they don't like Harris, Walz obviously won it. And if it was
But
an
the thing
undecided
is-
voter who was a Republican but didn't like Trump, they like Vance. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
I guess it depends on which way they are.
I'm talking about legitimate undecideds, because I honestly don't subscribe to what a lot of the conservative punditry was saying this morning, which was that JD Vance wiped the floor with Tim Walz. I don't think that's accurate, only because Tim Walz simply fell on his face, or dropped the chili, as it were. And JD Vance just did what he needed to do. I don't think he didn't, like, there was nothing JD Vance did that wowed me, other than the simple fact that he talked to the actual normie Republican base, the Fox News Republican base, as opposed to the fucking 4chan conservative base that he has been talking to for most of this campaign. So it's like, it seems like, and this is one of the things that separates JD Vance from Donald Trump, is that it seems like JD Vance learned a few things in this process over the last couple of months, as to where Trump never fucking learns anything.
So I was going to ask you this. Do you think Trump's a little pissed? Do you think JD Vance outshined Trump? Do you think he's going to get upset?
I mean, as it pertains to their debate performances, yeah, JD Vance absolutely outperformed Trump.
I think that if you put JD Vance out on the stage more, like after this, like I feel like he's going to, like you said, I think he's learning real quick. I think people are going to like him more than Trump.
You want my scorecard?
Yeah.
So they started the debate, and I didn't go all the way to the end, but I went almost to the end. I was just done and exhausted. So they started the debate with Israel. That was one of the first things they talked about. Vance was a little wishy-washy, of course, as you might expect. And Walz turned to the standard neocon response. Did you remember when he said this? You know what I'm about to say? The standard neocon response of Iran just keeps getting closer and closer to a nuclear weapon, as if we haven't heard that since fucking 2003.
We've been hearing that for a long time, yeah.
And
we were like, it's so funny, like, because we're not gonna do shit about it, just like we were hearing about that with North Korea for a long time. And then guess what? Oh, nope, North Korea got nuclear weapons.
Pence won the point on Israel, and
Vance.
he didn't even win it.
Vance.
I'm sorry, Pence. Did I say Pence? Did I really just say that?
Yeah.
Vance. I'm sorry. Vance won the point on Israel on my scorecard, and the wishy-washiness wasn't great, but what he did do was very smart and something Trump should have done. He brought up the no new wars angle. Donald Trump in his first term didn't start any new wars. Now there's nuance to that, and there were other ways in which Donald Trump wasn't great geopolitically, although I still think he's better than pretty much any president since I don't even know. Maybe Ronald Reagan. That's a low bar. I want everybody to understand that it's a low bar. But the no new wars angle to me was what won Vance that point. So Israel went to Vance for me. Then they talked about Hurricane Helene.
It's safe to say it wasn't for lack of trying, but we had no new wars under Trump. It's an undeniable objective fact.
They moved on to Hurricane Helene, which is obviously the big storm that just hit the southeast this past week.
Which I got a bone to pick with that. I'll let you finish your.
What did Tim Walz turn to? Climate change.
Yeah.
Climate change, putting severe weather events in the
right, and that's what's frustrating. It goes to the guise of climate latitude, where like abortion, healthcare, like vote for us, we'll do something about it. And it's like, dude, no. When you're asked a question about what we should be doing in this area, you don't go to this thing like, well, the climate, the world, air currents bringing in warmer water this way, like all that stuff might be true. Sure. You don't have to fucking try to talk to us like we're fucking stupid. What are you going to do to help me when I lost my fucking house because it just got flooded from a mudslide? And what are you going to do to help alleviate this issue from happening again? And if it does happen again, how are you going to take better care of it? Like, that's the answers that Americans want. But these fucking elitists, and that's where the Democrats fuck up the most, is this moral superiority bullshit where it's like...
Trust the science. It's the trust the science stuff.
Stop talking to everyone like they're fucking idiots and talking down to them. Tell them what you're going to fucking do for them.
Yeah, it's the whole, if conservatives would stop polluting the atmosphere, we wouldn't have these storms. And the fact of the matter is, it's like, even if you're right, you're not. But even if you're right, we still had this big fucking storm, and people are fighting to get their house, find a place to live or whatever it is.
Yeah, let's try to take care of that. But what are you going to do about this right now?
So Vance even took the climate change angle and flipped it on its head against Tim Walz. And he said something that is absolutely accurate, but something that the climate change folks don't want to talk about because it hurts their narrative, which is this. JD Vance pointed out in the debate last night that the United States is already among the cleanest environmental countries.
Oh, yeah, no, I like this spin. It was pretty good.
It was perfect. Brilliant move by JD Vance. Brilliant move by JD Vance. It's like, because what the climate change folks will say, well, yeah, but we're still not doing enough. We're still not doing enough. We're still not doing enough.
Let's stop offshoring.
Which is okay. Right. And that's exactly what he did too. And when he talked about the solar panels, and Tim Walz goes, they're made right here in Minnesota. And it's like, yeah, but they're not.
They're assembled there.
Right. Exactly.
So he wasn't wrong, but right. But like, it's funny, on the Right Report, another podcast, a little 15 and 20 minute news podcast. If anyone would be interested, they do it. He does it every day. he mentioned that. He goes, and he's like, and I don't mean to rub, because this is all shit that I've heard. Like, you probably heard it on that podcast too, talking about where like how the solar panels, like where all of these different components come from. They're all mines that China owns in third world countries, and slave labor is the one that gets them. And that no, they don't really know how to dispose of these actual wafers when it happens, and hailstorms can destroy them. And then like giving more context to like the downfalls of these, and like they have just as many pitfalls as any other source of energy does.
How green energy is not that green. It's not actually that green.
Right. And
unless, and JD Vance brought this up too, Corey, unless, guess what? It's nuclear. And what did JD Vance was the one who brought up nuclear energy last night and why we haven't built any more nuclear power plants. You want green energy? That's the greenest energy we have. Like, honestly, that's the greenest, most efficient energy we have is nuclear energy, and we're afraid of it.
Rice Cerrone asked, Rice Cerrone, nice. Can anyone point to a single All-American made, All-American made product?
Not offhand, but they exist, but like nothing offhand, and nothing that is like commodity based. I don't think. I could be wrong, but there aren't many.
I mean, there's probably like foods, but even the foods, like the plastics and stuff that are for the bags, is probably made somewhere else.
Well, I know there are small companies. I know there are small companies like T-shirt makers and things like that that pride themselves on being 100% American made, but they do exist. But like at scale, not really. There isn't really anything.
Yeah.
At scale.
Discs are made in America. Most of them Discgraph and Innova.
Oh.
But where do they get their compounds from? Like right. Like I guess
American plastics.
Like if you get real nitty gritty with it, there probably is not a damn thing.
Well, and that's true too, because obviously disc golf discs are made out of certain types of plastic, which is a petroleum product, which comes from.
Do they make the plastics here? Yeah. Is the oil from America? Like, right. Like is the plastic
there's probably no way.
Like,
there's no way for them to know that. There's probably no way for them, disc manufacturers, to even know that. So Hurricane Helene, again, point Vance. So 2-0 JD Vance. They moved then on to immigration. Vance floundered a little bit here because this is where he was fear-mongering the fentanyl and, the quote-unquote floodgates being open and immigrants undercutting wages, which is just a lie. That's not actually happening at scale. All of the data bears that out.
It was that goddamn women in the 70s when we doubled the labor force.
Yeah, and just
it's a joke.
Every economic metric tells you that immigration is a good thing. Our problem is the fact that we are really piss poor at getting immigrants processed and into the system the way that the rest of us are. That's our biggest fucking problem.
Exactly. We shouldn't be bringing millions in just to create a nanny state for them. If we're bringing millions in, let them fucking work, contribute to society, and pay the taxes that go towards the roads that they're riding on. Let them build credit. Don't make them just little babies suckling on the government teat. Make them let them
and that's
come
what's
here
funny,
to
right?
Live with the American fucking dream.
That's what conservatives they like to point to this idea, and it might even be partially true, honestly.
But conservatives are always they're either taking the jobs or they're on welfare.
Right. And so no, conservatives always point to this little thing where Democrats are bringing in immigrants as voters. And like that might even be partially true, honestly. Like I think it's probably overblown, but like there's probably some truth to that. But it's like, Corey, there's a way in which conservatives and Republicans could flip that entire idea
just
on its head.
Just serve the constituents.
by just simply making the concept of high fences and wide gates come true. Let the goddamn immigrants into this country, paying taxes like the rest of us. Although as a mostly libertarian person, I don't like taxes, but if I'm going to pay them, I have no issue with immigrants coming here to work jobs that, by the way, Americans don't want to work or can't work for whatever reason. That's the way to do this. And honestly, conservatives could win over that population so fast if they would just make the process better for them to be in the United States legally, because what do conservatives always talk about, especially the trad cons that I like to make fun of so much? We're not having enough babies. We're not having enough babies. At JD Vance in particular. JD Vance in particular. There's too many childless women because he is weirdly obsessed with childless women. It's like, okay, fine.
And I'm actually proud of him. He didn't bring that up.
I know. We need to make more babies.
Even when they brought up
guess
families.
What? Corey, if you made a baby tomorrow, you already have one who's a young age. If you made a baby tomorrow, how long does it take for that baby to get into the workforce and contributing to society? At least 16 years, maybe, to get their first semi-good job.
Have him on the till at fucking 3.
Oh, okay, so you're into child labor, which I actually don't have a problem with child labor for the most part.
with regulation, obviously. If there's if there's something with child labor, then there's
no. Well, what I think about is like the family-owned bakery who has like their 10-year-old kid in there like making bread or whatever. It's like that's technically child labor. You know what I mean? But it's like,
yeah,
is that really?
No, but
really
no, you're right. Like if a kid, like obviously, like if they're young like that, there would have to be regulations. But if a kid lives at home and he gets all this free time to play and stuff like that, and he wants to use some of that playtime to go and mow lawns, then let him fucking do it. It's funny when they do it on their own. It's entrepreneurialism.
But how long?
And they're proud of them. But if he wants to do it in a small business, it's child labor, and he can't.
How long does it take to make a baby that grows up to become
about 30
an adult?
seconds?
That grows up and becomes an adult and is like and has like an actual contributing profession to the economy. At least 18 years, right?
Yeah,
at least 18 years to make one. Yeah, and sometimes more. How do you supplement this baby shortage?
Oh yeah, immigration.
It's this.
Yeah,
the only reason to understand.
The only reason America doesn't deal with the depopulation crisis that China and Japan and all the European countries are facing is because we have a decent immigration system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, even Ray Cerrone agrees. Children are so small; their little bodies can fit into small gaps in the coal mine. Damn straight. I can set them down.
People are gonna take the fact that I just said I supported child labor and just
no, it's just child. Like people like to put broad brush strokes on very broad or on different topics that have too many intricacies in them that you're just kind of othering like a whole group where it's like, obviously I don't want children operating a forklift in a coal mine, but paper routes and like a lot of those jobs you can do at 12 or 14 anyways. But if a kid is like 7 or 8 and I don't see them being able to I don't see them getting hired in the first place in most places. But if it's a place where it's like, yeah, go ahead, 1 hour, a day, come over and just pick up the trash or something, and the kid wants to make money.
Yeah. And so on the immigration issue, Walz did an okay job here.
But I don't think that a child has to work in a factory to support the family. I don't think that shit's right. I'm talking and
that shit doesn't exist, at least not in the United States.
If it's like, what is it? Is it not Laszlo? Maybe it is Laszlo. No, it's the hierarchy of needs. I forget the psychiatrist's name, but if everything else is taken care of for that child, like his happiness, his food, his water, his shelter, and I want to say education, because
don't assume that child's gender. Don't you dare assume that child's gender.
Whatever. Okay, don't try to sidetrack me.
I'm just fucking with you.
Calm down! You fucking calm down!
But and it's like summertime and they want to make a couple extra bucks to buy a new bike or something, and the family can't afford to just buy them whatever they want. And if they can get a job at a small business or doing something to that's obviously safe. I'm not against that.
Paper routes don't really exist anymore because it's all online. But
I think what we're explaining right now is exactly how
technology is destroying child labor by taking away paper routes.
But I think we're just agreeing right now. We spent 5 minutes talking about this, and I think we're talking about how the American system is basically set up.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny. That's kind of funny.
Which brings me to Walz when it came to immigration. He did kind of an okay job here. It was clunky, as he was basically all night. He was like clunky at best. But he brought up, the newest border bill and about how people coming over the border are way down. The don't believe your lion eyes kind of thing, which he is right. As the election has gotten closer and closer, border crossings have gone way down. But why is that? Because there's an election coming up. It would seem anyway. And the one point Walz brought up, and I do kind of agree with him on this one, which is the idea that Trump doesn't want this problem solved, particularly under a Democratic administration.
Yeah, that's just
now
politics.
Right. That's pretty typical. And like that's
typical.
not really that. That's not really like
it's just right. Like at this point, does that show the nefariousness of one side? Because they both do it, right? They both try to make the other one trip over stumble blocks and stuff like that constantly. And I'm tired of us just blaming the other side. Like, God damn it, they got us again. Where it's like, at this point, you should know that that's happening, and you should have something planned for like plan B, plan C. You know what I mean? Like it just,
yeah.
The fact that both sides can continue to do this to each other constantly, and we're seeing it like they just heard of Mike Massey talking about this, and I'm sorry to go on a sidetrack, but
Thomas Massey,
sorry.
Corey, Jesus. Do you do this thing where when you don't know somebody's first name, you just automatically assume it's Mike? I feel like you use Mike a lot.
Maybe I do alliterations.
Maybe you have to it's got to be the same first letter.
Yeah, it just rolls off the tongue better. But he was talking about the government shutdown and how he called it and how it was going to fail, and they had to do a stopgap, and that the stopgap ends on December 20th, forcing Congress to come back on December 20th to force everyone to vote really quick without reading the big omnibus bill to keep the government going for another 3 months because they all want to get home for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's instead of both sides like just trying to be competent, they're just both just fighting to take advantage of the other side's incompetence. And that's what we're seeing with the fucking border.
And then you wonder why we have a voter base that sits around and just does the lesser of two evils thing. Like, gee, I can't imagine where that came from. Yeah. And so
the lesser of two incompetence.
Yeah. And so Walz was right about the 1990 law. The Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio are actually here legally. They are you can have an argument about whether or not that law is good or bad, which is probably the argument that Vance and Trump should be making. But at the end of the day, the Haitian migrants are here legally. I marked this one a tie, but I actually think upon further view of it, Walz might have won that one by just an eyelash.
Yeah.
But
the only reason it would be a tie is because like Walz by no action of his is just tied to Harris, who's tied to Biden, so it weighs him down. You know what I mean?
A little bit. You know what? Just to be nice, I'll give immigration to Tim Walz last night.
Midwest
because
nice.
he doesn't have many more coming as we move on. Yeah. Housing and the economy was next. Actually,
real quick, Ray Cerrone said just we need to add none of the above option to the ballots, and I was gonna say just write your own name in. Like
just leave it blank.
Write it Corey Walsh. That's what I'm gonna do probably.
I leave it blank a lot. Actually, no. Why did I say that? I've never left it blank. I've always voted for blank. However,
this time though, man, like, there's just nothing. There's just
I might leave it. I might leave the presidential part of the ticket blank. Is what I keep telling people. The economy was next. Walz did this trope that drives me more
the
insane.
Stupid one, right?
Than almost anything else.
The economy was crashed under Trump.
Nope. Billionaires and the rich need to pay their fair share. I love that trope. I fucking hate that trope. Why? Because they always say this, but they never say what that is.
What
Nobody
is
ever
the fair
says
share? Yeah.
what the fair share actually is. Because the thing is this. Billionaires and rich people, while I have my issues with them and the way they conduct their business, for sure, because as we've often talked about, capitalism, all fantastic, is certainly not perfect. What tells you that they don't pay their fair share? The thing is, they do something. So this is what rich people do. It's very simple for those who don't understand. Rich people do something that we can all do, theoretically. They take their money and they hold it in assets. That they do. They buy things with that money.
That gains value.
They hold assets that gain value that is not taxed until after you realize those assets. It's very fucking simple the way they do this.
And you can do it on a very large scale, and you can do it on a small scale. I'm bringing Bell in right now.
They don't hold a lot of liquid money.
We're talking about the idea of buying assets that gain value and stuff like that. And I know you have the perfect example of this because you talk about it in the pre-shows and post-shows every time. Now it's not thousands of dollars. It's nickel and diming, but like you buy what for like a certain amount of money that typically when you open it up, it has a bunch of things in it worth more money.
Sure.
Well, I'm saying, what is it that you do that with?
Oh, so there's a few stacks. There's a little penny stack.
I was talking about magic cards. God damn it.
Oh, you're talking about magic cards?
Just real quick, just simple example.
Sure.
Of just how you would buy like a pack of cards for like $7, and then you open it up and there's like 7 cards in there, and each one's worth like $8 or $9 or whatever like that. Yeah. Sometimes
it's like a lottery, yeah.
Yeah, but like you can hold on to those and you can sell. But like, I guess
it's
that's
an
just
investment.
Yeah, I'm dumb. I guess I'm really dumbing down what rich people do, but to to a very minuscule level. But
It's an example of how we can all do it. Theoretically, we can all do this. And billionaires, they just don't hold a lot of liquid money, right? So people talk about how Elon Musk should continue to be taxed, even though I think the last fiscal year or the one before that, he actually paid more in taxes than any American in history. And Elon Musk as
right,
owner
so that's called gambling. Yeah, I guess. But like, so I guess it was the same as like gambling on real estate.
Right. Owner or CEO of said corporation doesn't take a major salary, because why would he do that? Because his money is his money is already tied up into the asset that he owns. So the salary that he takes is enough to eat and maybe buy a few toys. I don't know, a couple $1,000,000.
Okay,
so this is no, hold on. This is what people that say continue to tax the rich don't understand, is that this doesn't get you anywhere. You're not going to be able to tax these billionaires anymore because yes, they're worth these billions and billions of dollars, but they don't hold it in income and they don't hold it in liquid in any sort of liquid money. So that's why you now have a faction of the Democratic Party that wants to tax unrealized gains, which would be an absolute fucking disaster for every single American in the world. Because even somebody like us, who, lower middle class to middle class to poor, we all have 401ks. Guess what those are? Those are unrealized gains.
Unrealized gains that we're not, that we're not getting taxed right now. And then all of a sudden, let's say you work 50 goddamn years and you play your 401k right and you have $6 million in there. But they say it's one of the, like, to be fair to the Biden-Harris Walz coalition, they did say it's on $100 million or more. But at that point, when you're making the threshold that high, like, is that I feel like that's just a drop in the bucket.
It's nothing.
Oh man, I was gonna bring something up about that. Yeah. Fuck, lost it. It was a good one though.
We just brought Bell in to talk about Magic cards.
They
Yeah.
did.
I watched this guy go and buy like $5 packs and then pull out these cards and he looks up the price and this one's worth $15. This one's worth $20. And
I don't know, dude. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I got angry there for a second, but like the whole rich need to pay their fair share argument is just so low IQ.
Unrealized gains. Here's the prime example of why the unrealized gains tax would be fucking terrible. All right, Mark Cuban. I'm sure everyone knows who that is. He just started a company called Cost Plus. And what they're basically doing is they're making
drugs,
pharmaceutical drugs. So, you know,
they're making drugs.
Right. They're making pharmaceuticals at a wholesale, at a wholesale quantity, and they're selling it basically at the wholesale price and cutting out the middlemen.
I think it's a very rude introduction.
Their pharmaceutical drugs at like a fraction of the cost compared to other companies. And Mark Cuban brought up the fact that like if you start to do these unrealized gain taxes and stuff like that, any of the extra money that you do have, like liquid cash you have sitting around to try to potentially invest in different things like this, which is a net gain for society, that people can actually afford their drugs. He wouldn't be able to actually try to start a business like that because he would have to just leave that money in a bank account to pay for his taxes. And one of the biggest reasons why America is, and like with all of our faults, as fucked up as our capitalistic system is right now, because both government and corporations sitting there in bed together spooning,
because it's not an actual free market.
It's right.
Freer than most. That's certainly not
that's one
free
part.
as it should
That's one part big corporation, one part government, and they really fuck it up for the rest of us. To where when we try to say capitalism is good, everyone kind of, you get people that, not everyone, but you get people that clutch their pearls, right? The pearls are the people, because they're socialists. You get it? Those pearls belong to everyone.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
That's fucking stupid. That was dumb.
You own part of this sweatshirt, Corey.
No way, brother. You're not gonna seize my means of production. Yeah, no, I lost my train of thought. I had it for a second, and then I lost it, and then I got it, and then I lost it.
It's all right. Walz went out to say Trump hasn't paid taxes in 15 years. Yes, he has. Trump engineered the largest trade deficit with China, which is true. He nailed that one. Very, very good because of the tariffs and the nonsense. Vance pointed out that he pointed out a lot of Trump's short-term boom economic policies, but he lowered taxes and kept up the spending. So this, you have a short-term boom in those scenarios, but it always, which is why, part of the reason why we have this inflation. Sorry to say this, Trump supporter folks. Trump is partially responsible for the current inflation that we have going on now.
Yeah, it's
because of his bad economic policies. And yeah, I will say this unequivocally, that Joe Biden did not do anywhere close to enough to mitigate the problems caused by Donald Trump. And so ex post facto, I would argue that he's just as responsible. JD Vance
to the Fed. How incompetent is that? Like, because some of the issues was like supply chains. You should have fucking just repealed the Jones Act. And he's like, nah, just raise interest rates.
JD Vance brought up the fact that most of our medicines are manufactured by quote unquote countries that hate us. Why do they hate us, JD? Do you ever consider the fact that we could be partially responsible for the idea that they might hate us? Like this idea that that in both sides,
brother.
They tell part of the story. Also, JD Vance loves tariffs. So on my scorecard, I called this one a tie because they were both fucking terrible, which is really concerning. That both of our shitty parties are horrible on the economy and just utterly awful on the economy. And then Hong Kong, Walz was asked the question about lying about being at Tiananmen Square. That was really fucking awkward.
Yeah,
that was
you seem pretty uncomfortable during that one.
I'm trying to rush through the rest of this because we're getting a little long in the tooth here. I'll move on to reproductive rights. I thought that if there was a spot that Tim Walz should have dominated, it was right here. He did not dominate at all.
He's a little
Walz,
flat-footed.
you know what he did?
But what was there to say though? Yeah, no, we're pro-abortion.
I'm going to tell you what he did that drives people like me nuts. Now, maybe the normie voter, the undecided voter, loves this, but people like you and I hate this shit. Walz used nothing but tragic anecdotes.
Yeah, he used anecdotal stories.
Then and
which, by the way, GA
they were
GA Supreme Court just overturned their 6-ban abortion rules. That's another red state that
yeah, because 93% of Americans support some form of reproductive rights, at least to some degree. And so Walz used the tragic anecdotes, and then he even overplayed it. And then I have a weird note here that I don't even know what it means, so I'm going to move right.
Say it.
It just says states that quote unquote that's not how this works. Oh, I know what that note means now. He said that Trump repealing Roe and pushing abortion back to the states. He goes, that's not how this works. Actually, it is. Like, that's how federalism works. That is what our country was founded upon. Actually, that is how it works. Vance, I gave him the point. I did not think I was going to give JD Vance the point on reproductive rights, but he was I just liked the way that he put, that he was kind of appealing for more trust after using an abortion anecdote of his own, which I thought was brilliant. He talked about somebody close to him needing an abortion, and just kind of like, because you do get this idea if you like watch Rachel Maddow, and that's all you consume. You do get this idea that conservatives aren't, they're not very empathetic to a woman that has had an abortion, or maybe a young lady that feels like she needs an abortion. And I think JD Vance did a really good job of like making it known that, like, yeah, we're conservatives and we don't support abortion, but it doesn't mean we hate you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just thought he did a really good job of, I honestly, like, I think he took Walz's anecdotes and kind of flipped them back on him. Like, yeah, we're just as empathetic as you are, bro. Like, we don't support abortion. It doesn't mean we hate you because you had one, kind of thing. Because, like, you know what I'm talking about, Corey. Like, you hear that all the time from folks on the left. It's like, if you had an abortion, Republicans and conservatives hate you. I've never felt that way, because I think, and I don't think you have either, because I think we look at this in a very nuanced way. And abortion is an issue, and we've talked about this many times, that is so contentious because both sides have so many good points. You don't have a contentious issue if one side has shittier points than the other. Like, if we all just agreed that abortion was murder, it would be illegal. But we don't. We don't all just agree that abortion is murder.
Right.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that. I gave the point to Vance for that because and then I'll let you go. I gave the point to Vance for that because I thought he did an outstanding job of flipping Walz's strategy back on him. I did not think I was going to give the reproductive rights point to JD Vance, but I had to. I gave it to him.
He also doubled down on there being a veto of oh no, as he was talking, Trump actually explicitly said that he would veto a national abortion ban. Did you see? Or Truth, I'm sorry. Trump Truth, that he would veto a national abortion ban.
Yeah, because these are things that Trump honestly isn't that conservative on.
He
like,
doesn't
this is
give
what
a
people that
shit
hate him
about
don't
it.
understand. Yeah, he doesn't care, because the reality is, it's tough to talk about, because sometimes I sound like abortion is not important, because it is important, especially on like an individual level. It's certainly important.
Yeah.
It's a very important.
It goes
issue.
back to what I was saying earlier about
But in the macro,
intricate
it's not that important
things.
in the macro.
Yeah,
it's important in the micro, but not in the macro.
As a male, it is not that important to you.
That's not fair.
Well, I mean, like, no, but I'm being honest. That's the same for me. Like, abortion is way less. Like, I'm not gonna get pregnant anytime soon, Dan. Newsflash. I'm sorry if you guys.
Oh,
I'm sorry if I'm
no.
bursting anyone's bubble.
I
I didn't know
understand
if you guys were hoping that I'd be expecting soon.
No. I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is that as a male, it's just not as important as it is to women, and that's absolutely true. It's 100% true.
Right. I just think
I
think that like when we talk about things like that, like it's obviously like when we say that stuff, like the caveat, the acknowledgement it should be obviously clear to everybody, but like I want to make it clear that like yeah, we know that if it's something like we're two white guys sitting here talking about this, we see this from a very different perspective than some people.
But it also gets annoying when we get told by.
But if you ask me where I stand on it, obviously I think you should have the choice to do what you want with your own body.
I do too. I've said it a million times on this show that like
it's too it's too intricate.
I'm not happy that Roe v. Wade was overturned. If it was up to me, I would want it to be the law of the land. I also understand why it was overturned. Like both things can be true at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gun violence was next. I honestly marked this one a tie.
Which is wild, right? With Democrats, they've really backed off the taking guns away shit. Like seriously, they're both like, we own guns.
Yeah, but the problem is Walz. He just used way too many there was all night. There was way too much sloganeering from Tim
yeah,
Walz.
remember in the very beginning,
he just couldn't
used
take
the word
it seriously.
fundamental like 15 times in like 2 minutes.
Just way too much swearing. Like he talked about, we need red flag and common sense gun laws. First of all, just like billionaires need to quote unquote pay their fair share. What the fuck does that mean? What is a common sense gun law? That's not a thing. It's subjective. Like what a common sense gun law is to me is not the same as it might be to you.
Right.
That's not how democracy
and
works.
that's what's frustrating too, right? Like it's like, so we see these different things being implemented, and it's like it goes back to what I was saying about trying to rely on the government to solve the problems. All right. Yeah, we could institute red flag laws. We could do all that stuff to make ourselves feel better. But why is it even before red flag laws and all these different things, the FBI always had their tabs on the motherfucker that went and did something wild? Why is that?
Yep.
Why is it that the government always knew that this person might be about to do something, but they didn't?
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been.
Poor guy.
You know?
The Rufo guy was, I think, maybe not arrested or whatever, but like he had an unlicensed gun or something already once. Like, so the second gun he had the serial number scratched off. Like he broke the law, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like
you like how Walz did he basically just did the David Hogg thing. Sometimes it's just
dude, he goes, it's the guns. It's the guns. Except I texted you guys. I was like, all right, David Hogg.
Then what was Vance's response to gun violence? We need more cops in inner cities. That was Vance's response, which is honestly,
well, he never said inner city. I think he was talking about it in the suburbs because he mentioned having more Asian officers. Did he say
said we needed? He said we needed more, and then I'm paraphrasing these. This is not an exact quote, but we needed more cops in the more violent areas. And all you need to know is, Corey, he said we need more cops, and that's going to solve the gun problem. So they both got a fucking F on the gun violence. They tied because they both sucked. I didn't give anybody a point on that.
So he just described what's already happening, like
more or less.
It's the mass shooting shit too is such a wild thing to me too. Like when people like it always comes back to just NIMBY of not in my backyard, right? Like the inner city schools already have the metal detectors than the cop inside because the inner city does have more violence, and all the shootings happen outside of the school on the block and at the playgrounds. and they don't happen in the school. There isn't mass shootings in the schools. They can't get in with the guns.
Yeah,
the violence of young kids killing young kids is the norm, and the Democrats don't say a fucking word about it in the inner cities. But when it happens in the areas where the elitist families live and the elitist children go to school, all of a sudden it's a tragedy, because
it's
all the news
Nancy
anchors,
Grace.
all the people in the media, all the politicians, all the people who are well-to-do see this happening, and it's puncturing their illusion of safety in their neighborhoods, and that's why all of a sudden it's a big fucking deal. They go, the same shit goes with the fucking drug epidemics. When crack and cocaine were epidemics, or when heroin was an epidemic in the 70s and 80s, the black communities, just bring in more cops. Just bring in more cops. You know, they start locking people up. The war on drugs in the 90s, like all of this stuff. Eisenberg, who was Nixon, was talking about how they were directly trying to target the black communities and the hippies with weed and heroin. And then it was crack in the 90s. And then all of a sudden, opiates start hitting the rich elitist families and the rich people because their doctors are prescribing it. And then all of a sudden, it's a pandemic.
Yeah, well, it's the Nancy Grace missing
Same
white
thing with
girl
the mass
syndrome.
shootings. Yeah, it's the same thing with the mass shootings. Kids, the kids are getting shot up all the fucking time in the city, and there's not a peep. But when it happens,
Well, they talked about
their little,
they talked about they talked about the mental health issue, and I think you and I would both
and
agree.
I agree
that's
with
part
that,
of
but it
part
pisses
part
me
of the
off because
problem.
they say it and then they don't do shit about it.
Right, it's
When
scapegoated. It's scapegoated. Mental
It's
health
just
being
a
the problem is
scapegoat,
completely
and
scapegoated.
it's so
Yeah.
goddamn frustrating because that is what the fucking problem is. But it's just scapegoated, and then they don't do nothing about it, and then they go thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts, prayers, Borther.
Thoughts and prayers, Borther.
They went on to housing next. Walz talked about the down payment assistance, which, as we all know, if you are even into economics in even the most basic way, is going to make housing more expensive.
Yep. You can't increase demand without increasing supply.
Tim Walz said this might have been one of the dumbest things he said all night. People with stable housing end up with stable jobs. Bro, it works the other way around every single fucking time. People with stable jobs end up with stable housing. That is the dumbest thing maybe that he said all night. Because what ends up happening if you give them the housing before the jobs, 2008 happens. People end up with not being able to pay their loans and end up not only homeless, but homeless and in debt. As if being homeless isn't bad enough.
It would that statement would make sense if it wasn't around the premise of like we have to give people actual houses, because like shelter, like if you said if people need stable shelter first before they can get a stable job, but stable shelter is crashing on a homie's couch when you're at the bottom of your depths and you just need a place to sleep to go get a job, but that's not owning a fucking house with a mortgage.
Yeah, well, and not to mention, that's very libertarian because it's voluntary. Like, if one of you guys was going to end up homeless, I would let you guys crash in my spare bedroom until you got back on your feet. But that would be, I mean, you're the Kenny McCormick of the group. You're the poor one. So if anybody, your wife and kid can't come though. Only you. They gotta find their own place to stay.
Walz and Harris is going to give him $25,000 for a house, but I'm still going to live with you. We're not separated. We're not divorced. I'm just going to live with you. That sounds like fun.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Anyway, housing. Vance goes on to saying that we need to open up energy to drive down costs and open up some federal land. I dig it. Like that was actually a good one. That was a good one.
Cheap energy.
I gave Vance the point on that one.
Cheap, sustainable, reliable energy attracts business.
And just real quick, the last one that I actually took notes on was healthcare. Vance talked about Trump's record. And Trump's record on the cost of meds going down, while Biden has gone up another 7%. That's actually true. Walz, I don't know if the 7% number is accurate, but it's up. And then Walz said his response was basically, quote, "Good luck buying healthcare once you get past 70." And maybe if there wasn't so many regulations and administrative bloat, 70-year-olds
Why would you be
might
buying
be able
healthcare
to.
after 70? What's the retirement age? 65 or 66?
The whole point is that
But you get put on Medicare.
the point that he was
63.
trying to 63. The point that he was trying to make is that old people can't afford healthcare because they're older, they're a higher risk. They don't want to be covered. Insurance companies don't want to cover them which is what, Medicare and Medicaid is supposed to be the safety net for. But it's a real simple economic issue where if these fucking people at 70 hadn't paid $14 million in taxes throughout their lifetime, maybe they'd be able to just afford their own health care. And this is the whole point about why federal taxation is a problem. I'm not a taxationist theft guy. I get accused of being that all the time. However, I think federal taxes, for the most part, are theft. If you gave me back every dime that I paid in federal taxes, federal government, I'm talking to you. You don't even need to pay me interest for it. Just give me back every dime I ever paid. Call it a savings account. Give me back every dime I ever paid. And I could use that money to put towards my retirement to pay for things like my health care. I would take that. If people like Tim Walz would get out of the way, people over 70 might be able to actually afford healthcare. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, that's
so
a fact.
The safety nets, and if they choose to blow the
God,
money,
I wish I could just put my the money I put into my Social Security into just a conservative 401k.
Invest it the way you want to invest it.
You can just get like an 8% return versus like the 2 or 3 you get from Social Security.
So I gave the healthcare point to Vance, and at that point I took a note that said I'm fucking exhausted, and then I wrote, what did I write here? Vance walked Walz right into the trap with his censorship thing, which he absolutely did, because Tim Walz I'm sorry, this was actually his dumbest statement of the night. I apologize to our audience when he said, hate speech. He doubled down on hate speech is not free speech, which is just nonsense. Hate speech absolutely is free speech. And then he
we don't like it, but
right. Yeah, but it's free speech. He jumped into the old trope that's been disproven time and time again, Corey. One of our favorite quotes: "You can't yell fire in a crowded theater." Oh, Tim. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. And I had people arguing with me going, well, yeah, but you'll catch a riot charge. I'm like, that's fine. You catch a riot charge.
Your words became actionable.
But guess what? You were not being charged for the action of saying the words. And if you can't see why that's a problem.
It's a semantic distinction. Like, it's semantics when it comes to the distinction, but it's such an important distinction.
It's just like distinction.
Should Trump be held liable for the words he said that may have incited a riot at the Capitol? Yes and no. If those people didn't do the January 6th riot, those words would have been looked at as all the other hyperbolic shit he was saying in every other rally, every other speech, and all that stuff. But his words became actionable. But that his words aren't what the problem are. It's the action that came after.
Right. And that is a unbelievably important distinction. You're not charged
because, like, if I went into a movie theater and I yelled, "Fire, there's a fire," and someone said, "Shut up, you fucking idiot," the beepers would be going off, "Sit down," I wouldn't get a fucking charge. But then all
you
of
might
a sudden,
be asked to leave. The owners of the theater might come in and be like, "You got to go."
Yeah, buddy, you're upsetting
which is their right.
You got to leave.
Right, which is their right.
But if I had said a riot and all of a sudden, like, a little 6-year-old gets trampled because everyone's trying to run down the goddamn stairs in the dark, then I'm held liable. It's when the words become actionable.
Very,
Trump
very,
had a
very
right to say
important.
everything he said on January 6th. We should not be trying to hold anyone like accountable for words being said. It's just those words became actionable.
Possibly. And I like the fact that it's tough to prove it. As much as I hated what happened on January 6th.
Yeah, it was fucking wild and fucking stupid. Like I don't know. Like again, I've said on this show probably two
Bunch
dozen
of
times. Like
it was a
fucking
bunch of
squatters.
morons.
I know. Like right. They're gonna, right. Like we're gonna take over the government by everyone going in the Capitol at once and just squatting. Did everyone bring their
Donald
toothbrush?
Trump is
Like,
a
I don't
bad
fucking know.
guy.
Like,
He's a bad person.
It was just fucking stupid. It was just a bunch of morons. Yeah.
And
But
I want to.
capitals have been stormed in our country countless times. That's the first time the federal capital was. But like
Yeah.
the state capitals constantly over abortion rights, over Black
And you
Black
have
Lives
to.
Matter groups have done it. Like it's happened a lot of times. And those
you
people
have to
weren't
point
held as
out.
insurrectionists.
We would be remiss if we didn't point out, JD Vance bringing up the censorship issue and about how, he's accusing the Democrats of wanting to censor speech, and he's not wrong. He's 100% right. But
Well, he's mad that they're censoring his speech.
Right. That's the whole thing that we
Because
talked
they
about.
have
I
no
think at the
problem
Corey,
censoring
we talked.
Democrat speech.
Yeah, we talked about it at the top of the episode. It doesn't have anything to do with supporting free speech. And how do we know this? There are various state court cases regarding speech. There are that are brought on by Republicans in the GOP. Trump talking about trying to walk back Section 230, which honestly, in the modern era, is probably the most important piece of free speech legislation that we have with regards to the internet. Trump wanting to walk that kind of stuff back. This isn't this. Whenever somebody talks about censorship and free speech from a partisan perspective, which is what JD Vance and Donald Trump are doing, you have to take it with a massive grain of salt, because these people aren't trying to save free speech. They'll talk about it like they are, but what they're really doing is they're mad that the other side is trying to censor their free speech, and the first fucking chance they get, they are going to try to censor your free speech. Look no further than something that we brought up earlier in the episode, and I have it as a banner. And I don't know that we're going to talk about it a whole lot because we're already an hour and a half in. But what Elon Musk just did to what I think is one of the greatest American reporters that we have right now, American journalists that we have right now, and Ken Klippenstein, suspended this man's account for the quote unquote, what the fuck did they call it? The JD Vance files or whatever. And all it was research done on the Trump campaign with details about JD Vance. And there's nothing in it. I mean, I skimmed through most of it. There's absolutely nothing of substance in this at all. But it had JD Vance's address in it. And what did Twitter come out and say? They said, we're suspending you. We are suspending you because you are quote unquote doxing JD Vance. Doxing is now a word that is vastly overused by people on the right. It is absolutely fear-mongered by people on the right. And the fact of the matter is, JD Vance's house, where he lives and what property he owns, was readily available via a very fast Google search prior to this piece from Ken Klippenstein coming out. And Ken Klippenstein's point was, I don't feel like it's my responsibility as a journalist to redact anything at all that I find that's public record. And what does Twitter do? They suspend him for that. There is no fucking way that that's not politically motivated. And why is that any different than what Elon Musk pointed out in the Twitter files? The right does not want to support free speech. They just want to censor the speech that they don't like, just like people on the left are doing. And it's all wrong and it's all bullshit. And being principled is really fucking hard these days.
Facts.
Corey just nods and says facts. I actually love it.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, you're right. What else do I have to say to that?
Did I nail it all?
You did. And then I got this little video
I
here
actually
to sum up.
I actually feel like that rant before you play it was one of my better performances in the history of the show.
Pretty good one. That's a pretty good one. I feel like sometimes I get on a tear and I have some pretty good rants.
You've had some good ones.
All right, and I got
What is this video you wanted to play? Oh, this is okay. Midwest guys or Midwest nice.
Yeah, like this is what I mean when I said it was refreshing. This is just basically how the whole debate went.
We could come together. Now, Tim admirably admit. I appreciate what Tim said actually about.
It's just them agreeing over and over again.
And I are that far apart. Kamala Harris proposes to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. I'm sorry about that, and I appreciate you okay. So. I actually agree with Tim Walz. I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this, and I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is just how do we actually do it? I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening, and I actually think I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it.
Thank you, Senator Vance.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz.
Well, I've enjoyed tonight's debate, and I think there was a lot of commonality here, and I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator.
Me too, man.
We could come together.
Now, Tim admirably admits what Tim said actually about Finland.
Yes, the old "we have to come together" trope. That's
just
always
the
a fun
Midwest
one.
nice thing. Just yeah, no, I agree. Oh, no, I agree.
Sorry to step on your toes.
But I got nothing else either.
We didn't talk about the port workers thing, but maybe we can let that. I guess we can set it up real quick. The entire eastern seaboard from Maine to Texas, port workers are on strike. Look into it. I'm going to say this, and maybe this will be hyperbolic, and some of you are going to hate it. I'll give my opinion real quick, and maybe we can expand on it next week, Corey, as hopefully this gets resolved. This is thuggery from a union. That's all this is.
Yeah, and I'll let this one simmer too, because as someone who generally supports unions, I think that this is
you're on the side of the billionaires.
I think that this one is ultimately like an incompetency of our government and just a lot of stuff. So
I'll leave it
to
with
really
this.
make it a point to talk about that one next week.
Let me leave it with this. So here are some facts to help inform your opinion about this strike. Just real quick. This was tweeted out by Micah Irfan. Base pay for these workers, $81,000. Some make over $200,000. Hold on. Let me just go through them. If you want to respond, you can. Base pay for these workers is $81,000. Some make over $200,000 a year. The Employers Association is offering a 50% pay raise and limits on productivity-enhancing technology. The union is demanding a 77% pay raise and more restrictions on the use of productivity-enhancing technology. And last point, a strike would or is at this point causing billions to the U.S. economy each day, spiking prices and leading to mass layoffs. So what were you going to say?
I guess we're just going to talk about this one.
Okay,
because
let's go for
it. The base pay thing, that's kind of a misleading number, because that the 80K and stuff like that is including them working tons and tons of overtime. That's according to the Guardian.
Okay, fair. So they're making an $81,000 salary and not making overtime. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, they're working a ridiculous amount of overtime. These guys are working. So ILA contract that expired on Monday shows that the starting pay for dock workers is $20 per hour. Pay raises to $24.75 after 2 years, $31.90 after 3, and tops out at $39 for workers with at least 6 years of the job. They're demanding a 77% increase on that. The thing is, these guys are all working it's not a 9 to $5, like a 9 to 5 job. You guys are all working like 80 to 100 hours a week. So most of that pay is overtime. So,
which is voluntary.
But if they don't want to work that, 24 is like 50, maybe like 53,000 a year or something like that. So if I understand why they want more pay, right? And I understand the threat of automated workers. But a 50% pay raise on $25 is what? That's another $12 on your paycheck. Because 100% pay raise would be double, so 50% would be half.
Well, another $12 per hour on your
paycheck. Yeah. So like that's what's being offered.
It's a big number.
And arguably something that I typically am against. They're also advocating, like the government or the company was like, yeah, we'll stifle innovation.
Yeah, no, fuck that shit. That's probably that's probably the thing I have the biggest issue with.
But here we have this problem happening, and we saw, and this is what's frustrating. This is what's really frustrating to me. These guys see that they have, like, they're seizing their opportunity because of the fact that the presidential election is coming up, which, you know what? It's dirty, it's thuggery, yeah, but you can understand it. You know what I mean? You can get why they're doing it now. But here's where an incompetent government comes in, where Joe Biden, who knows what the fuck he is, he was so swift to shut down the train protest. Remember when that was like earlier in the year or whatever, maybe last year? The train companies were going to protest, and then under like the Taft something, I forget what the bill is called. If you could look that up, Bill, it's the Taft Warner bill or something like that, to where the government can step in on trains. Well, boats don't have that, but the government can step in with a moratorium, and the unions themselves are showing they are not getting the public like sway on their side for this one, like the UAW did. Remember the UAW? They had the people on their side. This one doesn't. And as the leader of the country, he should have stepped in and goes, listen, dudes, listen, Jack, we just had this very big, devastating hurricane decimate a large swath of the country where large populations are underwater. They're going to rely on your boats. Let's get together. We'll show some solidarity. Put a moratorium on this strike for 90 days, 30 days even. We're going to get all the public sway to you that you are one of the sole reasons why all of the goods and stuff got to this decimated area. And in the meantime, while you're doing that, let's figure out this deal. But no, Biden's dumbass is just letting it happen. And I don't like government interventionism, but this is where a point where the government can step in and mediate something like they're supposed to, because this isn't good. Like, this wouldn't be good without a hurricane fucking up a bunch of areas. But now it's just going to compound the issue. And it's just fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid. I think that it's a little bit of greediness and thuggeriness. I think it's like unions being too big for their britches.
It's an example
unions stifling innovations, incompetent government. It's just stupid. It's a mess. It's dumb.
It's an example of unionization getting too big. I look at unions a little bit like I look at socialism. Both of them can be good and effective in small increments.
Yeah,
I think socialism in a small community can probably work. In a country of 300 million people, not so much. And so I look at and honestly, I look at least large unions. Like, I don't have an issue with like a small factory or small, maybe 3 factory company that uses a factory to make one thing and another, and maybe it's just like a small consolidated area unionizing to go up against a tyrannical boss because they don't feel like they're being treated fairly. That's not what these big unions are. That's not what port workers are. That's not what the port workers union is. That's not what the teachers union is. That's not what, and I know private public unions different, but that's not what the UAW is. These are giant thug-like bureaucracies.
Yeah, just
that demand more. Unions to me are like affirmative action.
Well,
they
hold on.
This is the last point I was going to make. Unions to me are like affirmative action. They had their place, and now they're kind of obsolete, at least in the macro. Maybe not in the micro, but in the macro.
Yeah, just like how I don't like the idea of a big conglomerate like Walmart coming in and decimating a workforce. I don't like the idea of a big conglomerate of a union decimating the economy.
And a workforce.
And a workforce.
I mean, they're doing it for both. I guess we did get to it. That's awesome. Do you have any closing remarks, Corey?
No, I don't. No, I don't, Dan.
Bill said, "What's the name of that bill? Tap Werner."
Taft. What?
Tap Werner,
I guess.
like
I guess Google. I guess Google. What act can stop train protests?
He's
and
not
while
going
you're
to find it
looking
by
that
the time we end. He's not going to find it by the time we end this
5
episode.
fucking years later.
Bell's fast, but I don't think he's going to find it by the time you find it.
Faith. It's it's the Railway Labor Act. I mean, it's like an offshoot of that, but yeah, it was a law signed in like 1926.
The Taft-Hartley Act.
It was amended in 1934 and in 1936.
The Taft-Hartley Act. The Labor Management Relations Act of 1947, better known as the Taft-Hartley Act, is a United States federal law that restricts the activities and power of labor unions. It was enacted in the 80th United States Congress over the veto of President Harry S. Truman, becoming law on June 23rd. Truman tried to veto it, and they superseded it to keep the working men down. But like the Taft-Hartley, I don't know if the Taft-Hartley Act could be used. It might be able to be used for this, and he might be. I might be talking about an act that could be enacted to this strike that Biden could do, and I might be misconstruing it with the train one that Bell mentioned. Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found on Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter, LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast. And you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today. Do it.
That's right.
Right now.
Do it. Okay. For Bella Bodysnatcher, he, as always, is Corey Walsh.
And he is Dan motherfucking Griffin.
Is that right?
That's right.
This has been Libservative. And until next time, we are out of here. Go Tigers.